morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Wherever you're listening in from, we're glad you're here. I'm Paige McGarry, Associate HEOR, RWE, and MA Category Manager at Scientist.com, and this is Insights and Outcomes, a HealthEconomics.com podcast. Here we sit down with the brightest minds in HEOR, RWE, and market access, the experts shaping the future of healthcare decision-making. Each episode, we dive into their careers, key insights, and the biggest trends in health economics today. Today, I'm joined by Chris O'Neill, founder and CEO of Bosun MA. With over 20 years of experience in global and regional pharma market access solutions, Chris is also the author of Fast Track to Success, a book offering unique insights on building a successful career. I'll have to pick your brain offline about those career insights, Chris. Thanks so much for taking the time to be with us here today.
Cool. Yeah, very, very nice to be here, and thanks for asking me.
Perfect. If you're ready, we're going to start with a fun little game we like to call Ins and Outs. A series of slides are going to come up, and I'll read the prompts that have been selected by my colleagues, and we'll answer in and out depending on if it's something that we would or wouldn't do. Okay. And I haven't seen these prompts either, so it'll be a surprise for both of us. Perfect. Are we ready?
We are.
Okay. Keeping a fully stocked stack drawer in your desk.
Out. God,
really?
No. I've reached the age where I can't do that.
I get so hungry during the day. I have a whole variety of snacks right next to me at all times.
No. I sometimes have some nuts, but that's kind of it.
Okay, fair enough. Binge watching TV shows? I'm in on this one.
You're out?
No, I'm in.
Oh, you're in. I'd love to say in. Occasionally, yeah. I never get a chance, but it's kind of, I binge watch Succession. It's
okay.
In if I get a chance, but that's
I haven't watched Succession yet, but I've heard really good things about it.
Yeah, no,
I just binge watched The Night Agent. I don't know if you've seen that yet.
Oh yeah, no.
It's really good.
I've heard of that. Yeah, quite excellent. Yeah, there you go. Well, I can. Yeah, so I'd like to say in more often, but unfortunately, it never seems to happen. I'm aspirationally lazy and would like to do that, but I never get.
Fair enough. Yeah, in on the weekends, out on the weekdays.
Yeah, quite.
Bringing lunch to work only to eat it by 10 a.m. and then still needing to buy lunch at noon.
Are you an in or an out?
I'm an out. I think I like breakfast a lot. Yeah. Breakfast is one of my favorite meals of the day, so I always try and eat it before I go, but I also am not a morning person and have to get up really early for work, so sometimes I have to skip it. Depends on the day, but more often than not, out.
I'm an in. I would do that, but the issue is I work from home most of the time, other than when I do go to the office. And so if I work from home, if I start eating too early, then my gastric juices start. I just never stop. So I just try to not eat. But if I did bring it up, let me eat it.
Okay. Having a plant at your desk that you try to keep alive? Oh, God. I'm out on this one. I'm a terrible plant person.
Yeah, out. I've given up on plants. Plants have given up on me.
Me too. I killed a succulent, and they need no water.
Yeah, quite. No, never gonna happen.
Oh, hitting snooze on your alarm at least 3 times before getting out of bed. I am in on this one.
Oh, you know I'm out.
Oh, yeah. Unfortunately, I set probably 6 alarms to get out of bed in the morning. Like I said, not a morning person and have to get up really early.
Awesome. No, I'm out. I mean, once I'm up, my brain just starts whirring. I think, oh God, that's it. I'm up. I can never get back to sleep. I'm out.
I aspire to get there one day.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Okay. Well, that's perfect. That's our game.
Very entertaining.
Nothing to be scared about. Fun little icebreaker to start off with.
Insights and outcomes. I get it, in and out.
There you go. We tried to come up with something unique and catchy. That's what we came up with. Perfect. Well, let's hop right into the interview. First, we're just going to start off with a few introductory questions. Sure. What initially attracted you to the field of HEOR, RWE, and market access? And how has your perspective on it evolved over time?
Oh, gosh, well, you know what? The best part of 20 years ago, I got into it, and I was a general consultant in those days. I was just doing strategy consulting and such like, and I had a client in Switzerland, and they said to me, look, we've got this strategic process of sorts called sort of market access, and we seem to kind of reinvent the wheel every single time, it's frustrating. Could you help us to try and codify and structure this so that, because this was back in the early noughties, when it was a
Yeah.
relatively new world. And so yeah, I started to work with that particular client, who then moved on elsewhere, and the next thing you know, I'm working with a whole bunch of people and helping to build processes around market access strategy and such like. And in and amongst it, I ended up with a whole bunch of health economists working with me. So there was a lot of sort of like, it just happened. But it was great. It was great fun. It was just crazy in terms of the number of things we ended up working on and the number of areas it took us to. And actually, it was lovely because there were people who were really engaged about finding interesting solutions about driving access to medicines for people who really needed, those critical therapies, and it wasn't always easy to do it. So creating value and getting evidence to support those value strategies, in the end, it just felt like a really good thing to be, a good place to be. So, serendipitously or whatever it might be, I ended up there, but wow, it's been great, and everybody tends to be quite nice in the pharma world, which is quite nice. I quite like that. I've worked in different industries, prior to that in the 90s, and it's a CPG, FMCG.
Oh God.
That's tough.
That's exciting to hear, because I would say more often than not, I've had the exact same experience, which is reassuring, as this is my first career and first industry that I'm in. So,
Yeah, no,
positive
good
to
place
hear.
to be. Great place to be. Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, quite. So there, yeah.
Perfect. And can you share briefly about your current role and what your journey has looked like thus far? I know you touched on that a little bit, but what are you doing now?
Yeah, so Bosun Market Access is primarily about trying to, I I had a previous organisation, and I was lucky enough to be able to exit that organisation, and I worked with a whole bunch of great people. Over the last few years with Bosun Market Access, I kind of wanted to take it in a different direction in terms of what I was doing and how my clients were working. I was trying to look at what my clients were doing and where they were struggling and such like, and and in terms of the team that I now have, we're trying to address those issues. And fundamentally, the one thing which always struck me, and is probably even more so now, is just how time poor people are. And obviously the big buzzword is AI. And I'm fortunate enough to be able to partner with a bunch of people who can put together some very cool things on an AI perspective. But equally, I'm not, my game is not about dossiers or papers or models and such like. I tend to work at a relatively strategic level with clients, and the bizarre thing is how strategy seems in a way to be a sort of secondary area for AI, especially in the sort of pricing and market access space. And I say that, having been to quite a few conferences, having been to a few ISPORs and such like, and you just think, really, is it just about efficiency? Which, efficiency is a great and noble goal, don't get me wrong, but, sometimes I think people might be missing a trick. So, yeah, Bosun is trying now and working quite interestingly with a few clients on different ways in which we can help use AI and integrate AI into strategy versus just pure operational activity. And I think that's a fun place to be.
Very cool. Very cool. So on the topic strategy, how do you currently see AI being used in strategic development, particularly within healthcare organizations?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's an interesting question. I think, to be truly honest, there's probably a lot of people better qualified to answer this question than I am, especially at a broader pharmaceutical healthcare level. If I think about drug discovery and development, if I think about, clearly, accelerated design and such like, there's a lot of stuff there, which are where it's being used. If I think about clinical trial design and such like, and recruitment, patient effective and intelligent patient recruitment into clinical trials, great stuff. I think that's really important. And then if I, personalized medicine, what a great place to be using AI, in terms of making sure that, you're using the right therapy for the right person, that your predictive outcomes and such like, and, actually driving the value, making sure that people get the outcomes they're looking for. But, and I mean that on many levels, whether it's the physicians and the payers and such like, or whether it's the actual patients. So I see those as being the sort of key areas where it's being used effectively. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think you did a phenomenal job answering that question. So, great start to the interview. Good to set the tone.
Yeah.
And in your opinion, how well is AI being used to address broader strategic questions just beyond operational issues? I know you mentioned talking about primarily being used as a time saver, but I don't know if you.
Yeah, I think, I mean, look, in a market access context, I have to be truly honest, and I don't think it's being used as effectively as it could be. I think it's a really potentially massive, benefit or support to strategy development and such. Like if I think about pricing and reimbursement strategies, and trying to understand value and value. I mean, I tend to look at this from a strategic and from a payer perspective, and trying to understand what's AI telling us in terms of what payers are looking for. What behaviours are we actually seeing, rather than sort of kidding ourselves that we think they're looking for X, Y, and Z. Actually, you know what? The reality is this is what AI is really telling us in terms of the exhibited and demonstrated behaviours, which show what value really is from a payer perspective. So I think that's really quite interesting. I think if I think about market dynamics, if I think about how to develop against competitors and such like, trying to, again, that can be from a payer perspective, but trying to understand asset performance against a whole bunch of different criteria. I think AI can certainly help with that. And against what we think is an evolving marketplace, I think that's really useful. Real world evidence is clearly, I think, that's almost in the low hanging fruit space, But actually, I still think, from a strategic perspective, what can AI really tell us about what we're seeing? And again, that comes down to the fact that a lot of the time, AI is about, AI will give you information, but information is only useful insofar as it's plugged into an answer. So you have to be asking a good question. And a good strategic question. So that requires structure, it requires some kind of understanding of where you're trying to go, so that the AI can basically say, yeah, you're going in the right direction, or actually, you know what, there's nothing out there, or this is what you need to do, or, and just, plucking out things which, the human eye may not see. I think that's a fabulous AI thing. I think, again, on the cusp of operational versus strategic. So in the Europe at the moment, we've got a lot of PICO activity and HTA requirements around PICO, so patient intervention, comparison and outcomes. So I know that there are some organizations out there who are using AI to automate some of that activity, and I think that's really cool. I think that's that's quite impressive, and we have a little bit of activity in that space as well, and I think that's obvious, because at the end of the day, there are so many demands coming down the track from HTAs, and trying to do that manually just seems to be a fool's errand, really. And if you can use AI to supercharge that and to help you understand how you can coalesce and combine PICOs and such like, then that would be, why wouldn't you do that? But equally, that is still that's kind of responsive operational stuff in the context of submissions. Nothing wrong with that. But actually, how can you be slightly more proactive? How can you basically design PICOs? How can you be ahead of the game? So actually, looking at, so the comparator, so if the standard of compare is the comparator in a PICO, well, that's a fluid, milestone or measurable or comparator at best. So actually trying to understand, looking at the landscape, 1 year hence, 2, 3, 4, 5 years hence, what's that comparator going to look like, and trying to use PICOs in that context, and then you're forewarned is forearmed. So when those results or those requests come down the track, you've got some kind of information that you can potentially start to pull on, which is great. So a lot of opportunity in that space, I think.
Chris, that's a really interesting point around identifying new markets or optimizing pricing models. Do you mind expanding on any strategies that Bosun has been employing when trying to navigate or work through more long-term decision making?
We've got a particular client at the moment. They're looking for to understand how different assets from different therapeutic areas can be used across different comorbidities, different indications. And that's quite a broad activity, and ultimately trying to. I think what's really interesting about that, and I come back to the point about strategy being about structured decision making. And we have that in and out game at the beginning, and actually, strategy is all about in, all about out. What are you going to do? What you're not going to do, and in market access and in pharmaceuticals, it's also about the running order in which you're going to do things as well. Because you may also say, yeah, well, I want to introduce this drug into non-small cell lung cancer, but actually, you know what, I'm going to start with breast or bladder or whatever it might be. So, ultimately, that's one of the questions. And to me, what's exciting about some of the work we're doing in that space is about helping our clients to understand where they go, when they go, how they look at comparators, how they look at their own skill set, how they look at their product performance, how they look at how product performance might map across from one area to another area, the extent to which that's actually of value in terms of the burden of disease from a financial perspective, in terms of the unmet need from a clinical perspective. So I mean, the really interesting thing here, and why this is exciting to me is, ultimately, I can ask AI 700 questions, about, I can ask 50 questions in 14 different disease areas, and I'll get 50 really cool answers back in terms of there's this, there's this, there's this. But all of a sudden, I've got 700 pieces of information. What the hell do I do with 700 pieces of information? That's actually as complicated as anything. So if I can try and, put those 700 pieces of information into a strategic structure such that it says, do this, then this, then this, then this, because this is going to give you this is going to give you this is going to give you that. That's cool. And that, I feel quite comfortable talking about that, because that's quite a sort of an interesting and obvious thing to do. That because I think that's one of the biggest pitfalls of AI is that there's too much information and not enough structure.
Which is really interesting. We actually just had an internal webinar all about prompting and effective prompting and how to use AI. And the big takeaway was the biggest time saver is generally not actually doing everything or how you're prompting AI, spending the time to make the most detailed prompt to try and get exactly the outcome that you want, but it's actually understanding all of the ways that you can use AI in everyday situations.
Sure. Exactly. Yeah. And actually the ways in which you almost have to use AI, because like I say, AI will generate as much information as there is out there in the interweb.
It's your best friend that knows absolutely everything and always has to listen to you talk.
Exactly, yeah. But you know what? That's fine if you're going to a bar and you're going to sit there all night and try and work out what they're telling you. But actually, you want to actually work out what the hell they're trying to get at. So actually, some kind of a structure is kind of important.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. Good.
Perfect. Well, what are some current risks or limitations that you see in relying on AI for creating documents like dossiers, publications, or reports?
Okay, it's an interesting question. So I have this sort of I've worked on this with a few people actually, and we came out with a sort of with a mnemonic on it. So don't go to the baths, because you've got bias and you've got accuracy issues and you've got transparency issues and you've got hallucinations and you've got security. So you've got your baths, and I kind of, if people can kind of use that as some kind of a sort of a mnemonic to remember what they've got to look out for, because all those things are completely manageable. But ultimately, kind of if you don't, so bias, if you ask a leading question, AI will give you a led answer. So I think being intelligent and being neutral about the questions you ask is kind of important to avoid that bias. I think accuracy, again, to your point about the prompt and the AI prompts, what are you really looking for here? And it's actually, it's understanding, what accuracy actually means and what accuracy you need. And, some people get really hung up on it. And equally, clearly, if you don't understand the references and what's behind the AI answer, then it may not be very accurate. So I think that's important. So that's a real balancing act. You can get too sort of hung up on the detail. Equally, it could be flim-flam, but it's easy enough to check and manage. It's just be on it, and the same with transparency. Again, kind of it's understanding, where that information came from, and understanding that, being quite cool and upfront about the fact that, what the information I've got here, it's what it is. It's okay. It may not be the best. It could be better if we put more effort into it. But is it good enough? And having an open conversation about the quality of the AI information that you're getting out is important. The piece about hallucinations kind of links to that as well. In terms of the transparency and the accuracy as well. People do get worried about that. But actually you can train your AI to not use hallucinations and to avoid them. I do like the hallucinations piece, because actually AI is about being human.
Yeah,
And most humans tend to lie at times, and
that's
like
a scary
because
thought.
AI tries to be human, it tells a few lies.
Woo, yeah,
So I think that's actually where they've trained it well.
yeah. Well, that is
Yeah.
crazy. Do you think, just curious about your bit about transparency, do you think that understanding where the information is coming from also can help mitigate some of those biases in the
Oh yeah.
answers as well?
No, I know
Yeah.
100%. I mean, that having kind of everything referenceable,
Yeah.
and also again making sure from a hallucination perspective that it's not making up references and such like is kind of important. But that can all
Or
be
if it's
checked.
hallucinating on certain points and if
Yeah,
there's a pattern. Yeah.
exactly that. But no, you're absolutely right. That is really important. And then the final thing, kind of, I think the security piece. People, there are AI developments over the last couple of months which have been very, very well publicized and such like. And some of the technology and some of the algorithms, some of the ways in which that technology is working is clearly superb,
Yeah.
and will make a massive difference. But equally, I think, I mean, when we work with clients, they want to make sure that the AI that we're using and working with is secure,
Secure.
safe, etc. So that's, that will always be at the core of it, and yeah, I mean, it does. You do then have to be aware of the fact that, kind of, have we got the latest AI, blah 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 blah, and you have to make sure you've got good stuff, which actually comes back to the accuracy piece as well.
Yeah.
And we what we're able to do as a non as not as a client is we can, even with the same security pieces in place, etc., we can use the very latest AI. So some people are working on AI which is generating data which is 15, 18 months old and such like, and that's okay, but you need to get better, and it's possible
Yeah.
to get better, and that kind of matters as well. So from an accuracy perspective, so yeah, don't go to the bats.
Good to know. I won't forget that one. Thanks. And AI is really often thought of the solution to everything. How do you manage this misconception that AI is really the answer and rather than the tool to support the process?
Look, in terms of operationally, in a way, it almost is the answer to everything. Kind of. Although
Yeah.
I think it's difficult, that really, Paige. I mean, it's very hard to, people, because people want answers, and people want to believe what's in front of them and such like. And at the end of the day, I think a lot of the conversations about, look, you guys are all intelligent people, you're all very highly paid people, you're all doing a great job, you're all time poor, but nevertheless, if AI has written a paper for you, the human in the loop, as they call it, it's really important. You've got to
Yeah.
sense check these things. And I think the point about what can AI not do that humans can do is probably where to me that's kind of important. So AI and creativity. AI will do what it's told to do. If you ask it to be creative, it may well be creative, but at the end of the day, humans are naturally probably, and this is, I'm talking, we're sat here now in February 25, so the world may change, but within reason, I
The
think
world that we're
creativity.
in right now. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, quite. I think ethics is an interesting thing as well. Ethics and morals, and learned knowledge around that. I'm sure AI has got a lot of stuff on that, but I think we know what's right, what's wrong, and that's important. When you talk about where do I start with this drug? Do I give it to people with money or people without money? Do I give it to people who've got a lifestyle illness versus a non-lifestyle illness, a genetic, and these are kind of ethical questions, and AI, we don't know the answer to those questions, so why does, how will AI know that? But at least we know that we have to
Yeah.
wrestle with that question.
And I also think our lived experience to that current point helps
Yeah,
inform some of those ethical
yeah,
decisions that
yeah,
you
yeah,
just can't
yeah.
train a machine no matter how much
No,
information you're giving it. They're never going to have those 50
no.
years of lived experience.
Probably not. No, quite. That's
Yeah.
very nice. You made me younger than I am. There you go.
Hey, that's what I'm here for.
Appreciate that. I think also, I mean, talking, so here we go, emotional intelligence. I think AI doesn't have emotional intelligence. It can't understand nuance, or maybe it can. And again, maybe I don't know enough about AI, but my experience in terms of what I'm working with, I'm not seeing that at the moment. I'm
Yeah.
sure the best AI engines, et cetera, and the people who advocate for it would say, no, you can teach and learn that. But in terms of the world that we're working in, I'm not seeing that sort of that nuance and such like.
And I have no doubt that we might get there in the future. I
Yeah,
mean, just
exactly.
seeing
Yeah,
how far leaps and bounds that we've made in the past year or
indeed,
so.
indeed.
I
Yeah,
have, not a
yeah.
doubt in my mind.
Yeah, well, quite. Yeah, exactly. No, yeah, me too. But there we go. I think also, in terms of, when you're sort of, so I use this idea of, humans can be visionary. They can see which way to go. And, if you've got a knife edge decision, in terms of therapy A, do I use it here? Do I use it there? Do I do this price? Do I do that price? Do I go to this market or this market? To this population, that population, etc. If the data is telling you that you're plus minus 5% going on any of those, somebody's got to make a call.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to make a call, and somebody's got to sell that call to the rest of the team and to the rest of the business. And I don't see AI selling a decision, and that to me, AI is critical to that decision, but it ain't going to sell it.
Yeah. Oh, that's an interesting point. You basically already answered my next question, which is, what do you believe are the most important human-driven aspects of the strategic development process that AI cannot replicate?
Well, I guess in a way, those kind of things there. I mean, kind of it is that, to what extent, can people be creative? Can can AI be as, if I look at human beings, is it as creative? Can it have that ethical component? Can it have that emotional intelligence component? Can it be visionary? Can it understand context? And and help people to understand the context in which decisions are being made. At the end of the day, the business could be up kind of in a difficult space. So we've got regulatory and clinical components built into it. What do we do here? And that context, is kind of, important to the way in which, kind of whether it's a pricing and market access decision, whether it's, do we build this model or that model, how do we actually sort of, what's the sort of core area of value in terms of, we're seeing that certain payers have got these issues and these issues. Well, we need to help them understand how our therapy is going to address those issues. So that contextual understanding, there's a competitive landscape which is changing. So if we're not going to play in that space here, whether it's around something as complicated as CAR T, or whether it's around small molecules, or whether it's around kind of things going off patent, and whether we use biologics or biosimilars and such like, who knows? They're all contextual issues which. You've done all your AI research, but now you've got to plug that into a geography and understand where it takes you. And,
And I also think there's something to be said to keep that diversity in decision making. If we're letting AI make all of our decisions, we're sort of losing that heterogeneous thinking that is so key to progress and to development.
And for what it's worth, Paige, at the end of the day, if you're investing 500 million, a billion into X, Y, and Z. If you're just going to say, well, the machine told me to do this, then you know what? Good luck.
That's a huge problem.
It is about this is supercharging those decisions, powering those decisions with fabulous AI will make, and in a structured environment, it's going to drive much better decisions. But I still believe that it's a blend. And like you say, it may change. It probably will change. But right now,
I think it's important to think about AI it's a tool and it's a supercharging tool, but you can't just let it be your own solution or speak for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And at the end of the day, this has been a great journey for us over the last year or so in terms of how we've started to build these solutions and such like. But it's taught us both those things, which is it supercharges where you're trying to get to, but it can only take you to the point where you have to make your own decisions. And that's, so it's not the answer. I think that was a question you asked about 5 minutes ago. Kind of. Sorry, I've
it's all interconnected.
It's all there somewhere, exactly.
Well, perfect. Chris, those are all my questions. I just want to thank you so much for joining today and sharing your invaluable insights on AI and healthcare. It was really a pleasure to have you here.
Yeah, brilliant. No, absolutely great to be able to talk about something which I think a lot of people care about, and it's I think it's gonna the world is gonna evolve in this space, and it's good fun to be there.
I agree, and I think it's good to have these conversations now.
Yeah,
attack the fear of unknown.
There you go.
So
I know.
interesting.
Well, do you know what? I think that is one of the issues. I think a lot of people stick to the operational stuff because it's more known.
It's comfortable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So let's just get our papers written quickly.
Yeah.
Whereas, and do you know what? We'll leave that AI to those sexy drug development people and drug discovery people,
They
but
can
we're
have
just
it.
we're just going to stick to our knitting down here, and it's kind of. So no, I think people should push the boundary. They should get AI into their strategic, kind of development and such like at a pricing and market access and
Yeah.
HE level. There's so much benefit to be had.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
I completely agree. If you enjoyed this conversation, don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. It helps more listeners like you find the show. Want more HEOR, RWE, and market access insights? Stay connected with Theoretically Speaking and HealthEconomics.com for the latest trends shaping healthcare decision making. Until then, keep asking the big questions, challenging assumptions, and driving smarter healthcare decisions. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.